Hello, welcome on a Wednesday evening. We don't normally do this on Wednesdays, midweek. But yeah, welcome to Fallout Wasteland Warfare, a stream, where I am Steve. Hello, that's all you need to know about me. But I am surrounded by what's rapidly becoming a very regular lineup of Fallout luminaries. Um, the amazingly brilliant and talented Evie, Jamie, and Samantha. Let's start with Evie. Introduce yourself, please, and your Fallout credentials.
Hi everyone, I'm Evie and I'm the lead game designer in the Modiphius studio and I am the lead designer of the second edition of Wasteland Warfare.
Nice one. Samantha, what about you?
Yeah, I'm head of brand at Modiphius Entertainment, and I am also the brand manager for all of our Fallout lines, from the miniatures games to the RPG and more.
Nice. And the man with two fast combat rifles, Jamie.
I'm Jamie. I'm the project manager for our Fallout miniature lines. I deal with this and Fallout factions. And as if you saw the video yesterday, I did cheat a little with combat
Yes.
rifles.
Hey, it's fine. It's fine. It wasn't like loaded dice or anything. We were just both equally incompetent. If you don't know what we're talking about, go and check out the brand new battle report on our YouTube channel. It's a lot of fun. Samantha is a tad quiet. In that case,
Not
Sorry.
monitoring.
Hello. I'll
no,
get
no.
closer to my
There you
microphone
go.
with my boom arm hanging on for dear life.
Turned up a little bit. Turned up a little bit. As
Okay.
always, yeah, give us a shout if you can't hear anyone or anything like that, or something goes wrong, because it's a stream and things never go wrong. So previously, previously on Modiphius.tv.twitch.biz.ru, we've done a lot of streams since we announced Fallout Wasteland Warfare Second Edition, and ever since then we've kind of gone, and we're not telling you anymore. We're going to tell you some more. That's what this is about. So buckle up. I think what we'll do is, like we mentioned in chat briefly, there might be some time for questions at the end, and if you've got them, you can shout them out, but we might miss them, so maybe save them to the end of the Q&A. We might answer them as we go along, we might not. Who knows? As someone just said before the stream started, be the chaos you want to see in the world, and we are going to be that. It wasn't in reference to a cat, but there you go. So let's get cracking. And I believe, Samantha, you're going to dive in with like a kind of an overview. Cool.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've said kind of the stuff that I'm about to cover before, but I think it's worth repeating it just so that when we give you a little bit more detail later this stream, then everything is going to make sense. So, Fallout Wasteland Warfare's second edition will be what we call a solo first miniatures game. The default way to play that will be with a hero and their warband, controlled by you, playing against the game, so playing against enemies that act based on their prescribed behavior, what we colloquially call their AI, right?
Yep.
But you'll also be able to play cooperatively, where multiple players can play across a campaign map together. And
Mhm.
playing against the Wasteland in this kind of player versus environmental style is the baseline for the game, baseline for the second edition of the game. The Wasteland Warfare AI system has been entirely redesigned to make the best game possible, making the rules for your opponent's AI behavior easier to understand and implement on the tabletop. So, to play the game, you're going to explore a kind of overland map, discovering new regions and locations, finding enemy strongholds, friendly settlements, rad blasted like lakes, and other kind of familiar wasteland features as well. Playing cooperatively, you can either explore the same map together, or you can join your maps up and explore both, embarking on joint scenarios and quests together.
Cool.
So you'll be playing a full campaign, is the idea, with emergent quests and storylines, discovering a wasteland campaign map that is created randomly around you as you explore it. The combat encounters that you'll play as you explore are connected into a wider campaign, but because it's the Wasteland, you can expect to be distracted by side quests galore. You will have a main story quest that provides an end game for a campaign when you complete it. And at that point, you can either choose to end it there and begin a new campaign with a new warband and a new leader, or choose a new main quest and continue exploring with your current warband. Now, I often see discussions on our Discord of battle reports on socials. That a good number of you are still playing single scenarios with custom force, like each time that you play. And while you can just run a one-off combat encounter using these new rules, the baseline assumption is that you're going to be playing a campaign with all of those scenarios that you generate linking together, the outcomes of each one influencing like an ongoing emergent storyline for your warband. And unlike the first edition, where we sometimes created narrative campaigns for you, this edition focuses on a connected campaign with various narrative structures, often driven by a main story quest. There will be a battle mode in the rules where you can play a one-off combat encounter either against the game or against another player, but that is not the default mode of play. Just wanted to be clear.
Yeah.
So now I kind of laid all of that out, maybe reminded you of some of those things, maybe gave you a couple more tidbits of information about kind of what this new edition holds for you. I want to pass over to Evie to talk a little bit more about the mechanics of that and like how we approach the design of the new edition.
Cool. Yeah. So, Evie, mechanics. Tell us your
Yeah.
secrets.
The core mechanics of this new edition are mostly the same, but they have been reworked extensively. So if you've played the first edition, you'll find the mechanics of the second edition really familiar, but you will spot plenty of differences too. There have been substantial changes made at almost every level of the game, from tests to combat to character profiles, while still trying to understand what people loved most about the first edition and incorporate that into the new version as best we can. Because of those substantial changes, none of the rules material published for first edition is going to be compatible with second edition. And I know that's going to be disappointing for some people, but we are going to work really hard to make sure there's a lot of content really fast. There will be entirely new rules for all models, for encounters and campaigns, and for every other aspect of the game. We aren't bringing any scenarios over directly, and the mechanics of those scenarios would need to be reworked substantially. But I fully trust the community to do that if they want to do it. It can't be our priority. We've got a lot of stuff coming, but I know there are those out of you who will love that challenge.
Yeah.
We approached the design of second edition by looking at the most popular expansions and playstyles in first edition, and in particular, we looked at Into the Wasteland, Homestead, and Into the Vault as key inspiration. We tried to understand what people loved about them and what they did well, and also what some of the issues were and where the community had feedback. We didn't start with those as a baseline and then kind of cobble something together out of them. We developed a completely new set of rules, but using the lessons learned from there to evoke the best possible aspects of them.
Yeah,
So
that's
I think
interesting.
it's
If I could just chip in
of
there, Evie. I
course.
think one thing that's really interesting is seeing over the past few months, seeing people talking about, you know, second edition is coming. It's like, um, I think maybe people have made the assumption that it's just kind of like first edition, but with some of the lumpier bits filed off and polished down. And it's been really interesting watching people saying, "Oh, I think this is going to be in it. I think that's going to be in it. I'd like this. I'd like that." And it's like having played it and knowing what it's like, and knowing what Evie is literally about to start telling you. I think if you think it's going to be very very similar, you might be a bit surprised. So, should
Yeah.
we talk about more fine details?
Absolutely. So I think there are some like really practical things that players should know right now up front so they can kind of get prepared for the new edition. And there are some substantial changes. I will say again, a lot of the core of the game is still the same, but just so everyone knows, the standard table size has changed. We now expect you to play your battles on a 2 foot by 2 foot table. This small footprint makes it even easier to get your hobby into a convenient location and to keep track of what's going across the board. You can break out larger tables for significant encounters if you want to kind of emphasize the coolness and impressiveness of those things, but the norm is 2 by 2. And That's something that we were very conscious of as we designed. We've accounted for this kind of smaller standard in the rules, and we're confident that you won't feel like the tables are too cramped or confining. People have asked about dice changes. There are some dice changes. The skill dice, the white dice, has now become the special dice. And that's really just to differentiate it to make sure people don't get confused. It's got a different probability curve. It should feel a little less punishing. One of the big pieces of feedback we had was that people felt the dice always were a bit against them,
Yep.
and this should even that out a little bit. The armor dice and the special effect dice have been removed entirely. It was a lot for people to keep track of, and people often felt very overwhelmed by the sheer number of dice. But we've kept the damage effect dice, the accuracy effect dice, and the armor reduction dice, all exactly the same, and you can just keep using those from your collection if you've got them.
Could you just repeat about the special die there, Evie? I think there's
Yeah.
a little glorp on the line.
Oh, okay, no worries. So the special dice is the special die is now the kind of replacement for the skill die, the white die, and it is still a 20-sided die, but it has a different selection of numbers on it to smooth that probability
Cool.
curve out. So though you can build whatever forces you like when you're playing in battle mode or have one-off encounters, for campaigns, you'll build your list from models available to a particular faction, and that's the faction that matches your hero. Every warband has a hero in it that leads the warband that's kind of your proxy on the table, and they have a faction and you'll gain various benefits for that. You'll be able to recruit models from other factions later in your campaign if you forge strong bonds with other factions, but your faction's models will always be your bread and butter.
Yeah.
Robots and some creatures of the wasteland can be used as pets or beasts of burden or hired in, no matter what. They are always in addition to this, and you can just hire them with caps to join your warband rather than like having them as a core part. So you don't need to worry about not having access to Mr. Handies or whatever, regardless of what faction you
Yeah.
play. So the last point really is the game is absolutely going to support the full range of miniatures from our existing line. We're not retiring, big swathes of anything. Like we love these miniatures, we love this line, and the game has been designed to work with all of them. But the game has also been designed to work first and foremost with our plastic core boxes. You should all be, familiar with that by now. But if you want to get a head start on the new edition, grabbing one of each of the Wasteland Raiders, the Survivors, the Super Mutants, and the Brotherhood of Steel is a really good place to start.
Very
The other
comprehensive.
place yeah, it will just give you a really good backbone to work from. The other thing to look at is building out your collection of Creatures of the Wasteland, which are our resin models, because that's going to be one of the first things that we introduce into the game. We'll talk about that in a bit. And for that, we'd recommend focusing on groups of miniatures that feel kind of thematically connected, like get a selection of different Mirelurks or varieties of different feral ghouls or creatures that feel like they come from a particular biome or environment. The rules are very flexible about how you get these to the table, but it will make it feel much more sort of lived in and impactful if you get a selection of those that make sense for your table.
Cool. So
That's
yeah.
sorry, go on.
That's it. No. I was just coming in to steal your thunder and like go, there we go. That's as you may have noticed in this one, I'm surrounded by people who know exactly what they're talking about. So I am very much the button pusher here today. I'm going to push a button and I'm going to say, Samantha, tell us about some of the first things that are going to come out.
Yeah, so I take it no one's at Gamma, but if you were, then you will have seen these now. Now they're in our like catalog for the year. But for this launch of the second edition of Wasteland Warfare, I briefed the project team with two. Yes, that's right, two starter sets. The solo starter set that you can see here, and then the Warbands starter set as well.
Yep.
So this Into the Wasteland solo starter set is designed for players wanting like an introduction to the core solo experience. It still contains all of the rules to play, including like the battle mode if you wanted that. But it also includes the Into the Wasteland rulebook, which specifically adds custom heroes. I know that's been a very popular request in the past. Creatures of the Wasteland as enemies, and a system for generating thematic regions in your campaign, in
Yeah.
addition to just like the random ones that you would come across as you're exploring the map.
Mm.
Then the Warbands starter set will look and feel very much like the old 2-player starter set. It's going to contain some PvC survivor models, some PvC super mutant models, tokens, cardboard scenery, and the main rulebook and the reference book as well. What I would say is if you're moving from first edition to the second edition, which I imagine the majority of you watching this live are, then you may just want to also dive into the solo play. Then the Into the Wasteland starter set is the one for you, and that is scheduled to pre-order in Q3, hitting shelves and doormats in Q4. Oh, sorry, no, I've got that wrong. I wrote that wrong in my notes. Scheduled for pre-order in Q2, sorry, and it will be hitting shelves and doormats in Q3. And then if you're new to the game and you're watching and maybe you've been holding off on buying into it because you know the new edition is coming, then buying the Warbands starter set is the one that I'd recommend to you. And that will be pre-ordering in Q3 and then coming out in Q4. And now to talk a bit more about the actual contents of those box sets, this is stuff you won't see at Gamma, then I'll
Yes.
pass over to Jamie.
Yes.
Yeah,
You don't have to go all the way to a convention to get the goods. You can just hang out at home.
Yes, this is the Into the Wasteland box set. As Sam's covered, the solo first one. Inside the box, you'll have the core rulebook and the core reference. The Into the Wasteland book, which will cover the unique bits for this box, which is the custom heroes, creatures of the wasteland, thematic regions. You'll get all the dice you need.
Mhm.
You'll also get 13 different type of tokens, which is a lot less than first edition. So much more manageable and much bigger, not the tiny little ones you find in every corner of your house. The enemy tokens to proxy if you don't have the models. Cardboard terrains. You've seen the cardboard terrain we've done with things like Nuka World and Battle for Boston. We're going to expand on that more and cover sort of the various bits of the wasteland and stuff, which will cover every encounter you need in the rulebook from day one. Various bits like reference sheets, the quick start, the warband roster, a campaign journal, and a campaign map. So you can play straight away from this box. In addition, there is also a plastic Vault Dweller hero sprue, which we'll talk about later.
Well, yeah, we'll be, like I said, Gamma get to see some stuff, but we've actually got some stuff that you'll be the first to see because we realize, we wanted to share some stuff with you as well. But got to do the business as well. So what's in the Warband starter set?
Yeah, so in the Warbands box, we have the same core rulebook, the same core reference, the same dice, the same tokens, the same cardboard terrain, the reference sheets, the quick start, the roster, the journal, and the map. But in addition to that, instead of the plastic frame, you'll get 22 PVC bottles in the box, which is the survivors and super mutants that you've previously seen as our plastic models, but we've gone and chosen weapon selections for them so that you can play with them straight out of the box, as well as 3 brand new models and a Mr. Handy. So this will be a... Am I allowed to talk about these, Sam? I can't see if I should. Or are we spoiling this just now, or is that a surprise for later?
What the models are?
Yeah.
No, I'm revealing that later. Sorry, you'll have to.
That's fine then.
Not
3
that.
unique models,
3.
which will be available in resin separately later. I'm going to get ahead of that question now.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes, that's the 2 core boxes.
Cool. I believe though that's like you said, that's what they saw at Gamma. Samantha, we have something else to show.
We do, yes. So Jamie mentioned the plastic frame that you get in the Into the Wasteland set. But I'm delighted to announce that the first new miniatures for Wasteland Warfare's second edition will be 2 multi-part plastic sets of Vault Dweller heroes. One set will contain 4 male figures with multiple options for different armor and weapons, and one set will contain 4 female Vault Dwellers with different options for armor and weapons. Now, these sets are intended for you to represent the hero of your warband. So your very own, like, Chosen One, Lone Wanderer, a Soul Survivor, that type of thing. And you can assemble new versions of them as they level up. The idea being that as they level and they gain new armor and weapons, you can make a new model with the same head. There'll be all those different options multiple times, but with their new gear up to 4 times. So each set contains 4 different sets of armor and a variety of weapons, ranging from the unarmored Vault jumpsuit that you see on the left of the screen, through to leather and metal. That you can see the leather on the right-hand side, and then finally the combat armor in the middle.
Cool.
Um,
Just to give a shout out, these are the one on the left and the right were painted by our very own Callum, and the one in the middle painted by our very own Rosie. So just want to give those members of the painting team a shout out, because they can't be here right now to squawk about their own stuff. But yes, so there they are.
Yeah, just to
Um,
say, the Into the Wasteland solo set will have the male plastic Vault Dweller heroes inside,
mhm.
as well as a little pre-order bonus companion to watch out for when you come to pre-order it. And then,
Yes.
of course, both the male and the female Vault Dweller hero sets will be made available separately too.
Yes.
Then I wanted to let you guys know, so that there's no surprises, that alongside the already existing plastic kits and the resin range that we have, we'll also be releasing into retail a range of encounter boxes. These sets are going to contain pre-assembled PVC models themed by like a regional threat or a specific faction. And these PVC sets are intended for players who just want to get playing, like they're not into the like assembly or painting side of the hobby as much as we are. And it's a much more accessible purchase for those that are just wanting to get into miniatures gaming. The PVC models are just going to be copies of existing models, or any new models to the range will be out in resin as well. So there will never be a PVC model that you can't get in either plastic or in resin. If we release a new sculpt, it'll always be available as resin first, um, or alongside at the same time as the PVC. So if you're not into PVC, you're still able to get. If you're not into PVC, then you'll still be able to also get any like additional rules content for these encounter boxes separately. We'll always make it available, so you can still play the scenarios without having to buy those encounter sets.
Cool. That's good to know. That is good to know. People talking chat about like, is this are we starting to see the scale change? I mentioned this in the last stream. When we've talked about like the quote unquote scale change before, you've kind of been seeing it for a while in a way, really, because it's more about a refocus on how we approach detail on our sculpts, and how we push that stuff. It does mean some of our minis are, I believe, an astounding 3% larger than they have been in the past. But yeah, you've seen some already, and it's interesting. Like I think we've said before, were we being a bit fiendish, we could have just not said anything, and probably I doubt anyone would have noticed. Prepared to be wrong there, but it ought to be a thing. So it's more of a case of like sculpting style, and we've been doing it for a little while on and off now, but this is more of a uniformed thing. Let's then, I believe, Evie, it's time for you to step up again, and you're going to talk to us about how we're approaching waves of releases going on, because that's sort of changing a little bit now.
Yes, that's right. So in the past, we've organized Wasteland Warfare releases into waves, each of which has been themed around a particular faction or location or region. And we think it's still useful for us to organize our releases into waves, as it helps people understand what content's coming and when. But we are going to change our approach going forwards. Instead of looking at a wave as focused on a place or a group, they're going to be themed instead, with a special box set of miniatures and rules to kick off the wave, sometimes with other rules releases as part of the rest of the wave, and with plenty of miniatures, as you would expect along the way. Our first wave is Into the Wasteland, which focuses on heading out into the wasteland for the first time, exploring different regions and locations, encountering creatures, and building your own settlement out in dangerous places. The Into the Wasteland starter is our box to kick off this wave, whilst the Warband starter will be a perennial product that will last the length of the edition. So that will be, if you are interested, pick up the Into the Wasteland starter. While you can, because eventually this wave will run out and we'll be doing a new box instead.
Yep.
The first wave is a little rules heavier than the later waves are likely to be, because we want to get you up and running with all of your favorites as fast as possible. I know everyone wants to be playing with their collection immediately.
Yeah. I mean, in this new edition, I think, it's always going to be a rules heavy wave, wasn't it? As we have to get
Well,
that
for
stuff out
sure,
there.
absolutely.
Yeah. But yes. So, speaking of wanting to get playing with your favorite warbands, and that's a term you're going to start getting used to hearing. Warbands, as we described, this is what a group is called in Wasteland Warfare 2nd Edition. So let's talk about those. Let's see what's going to be covered when, and when you can expect to see your favorite team step up to the fore.
Yes.
There we go.
So obviously we want to get people playing as fast as possible. So we are packing as many of these factions for your warbands in as quickly as possible. When you pick up a starter set for the 2nd edition, whether that's the Into the Wasteland starter or the Warband starter, you'll get a copy of 2 books, the core rules and the core reference. And these books don't just have all the rules you need to play, but they also have all the rules you need to play as and against survivors, Wasteland Raiders, the Brotherhood of Steel, and Super Mutants. And you'll also find some rules in there for a few common robots and creatures of the wasteland as hirelings for your warband, but fuller rules for those things will be found elsewhere in the wave. If you get the Into the Wasteland set, you'll also find the Into the Wasteland rules expansion, as we mentioned earlier, and that gives you rules for creatures of the wasteland as antagonist forces in your campaigns.
Cool.
So, any questions?
I was just saying, and it's also worth pointing out that that set is that that rules expansion, the Into the Wasteland rules expansion, is available separately. Is going to in another way, because there's never going to be a situation. Correct me if I'm wrong. Stick my neck out here, but there's never going to be a situation where you're like, I want those rules. I need those rules, but I don't want to buy that full box set because it's just not the right option for me. So we're not going to try and hold you down and force you to buy PVC or an extra sprue. Great as business model as that is, and companies live and die by it, but we'll try a different way, see how it works. So rules for all factions of warbands, I think you mean, won't be available on launch. Stars of Stars. Well, we're about to tell you when they're available. So the next ones.
So, in the same release window as these 2 starters, very shortly after they're available, you'll have the Unit Compendium, which is the first of 2 books we're making in this first wave to bring all your 1st edition miniatures into the new edition. In there, you'll find full rules to play as or against the following: the NCR, Caesar's Legion, the Enclave, Minutemen, Railroad, the Institute, Children of Atom, and Cult of the Mothman. So that is a big book just full of rules for you to put all of those into your campaign right.
And
but that's not all.
Still more. Exactly. Buy now and get
So
this
much more.
exclusive pen. So there's more. The Wasteland Compendium.
So finally, to kind of round out the first run of releases near the beginning of 2027, we'll be releasing the Wasteland Compendium. This book has rules to help you represent the iconic wastelands of the series on the tabletop. That's New California, the Mojave, the Capital Wasteland, the Commonwealth, including Boston, Appalachia, and more. There are lots and lots of new options in this book, and we can't go into all of them right now, but they definitely will include, but aren't limited to, Nuka World Raiders, Gunners, Trappers, and Zetans. And anything that doesn't get rules across these books, including a much fuller set of rules for the wide range of robots we have, will be in future releases within this wave. The goal is for the vast, overwhelming majority of all 1st edition models to have rules within the 1st year of release.
Yeah. So yeah, that's I've seen a few people saying, "What about this?" Which is mentioned. It's like I think that's the best thing we can say about that is like, we've had moments where we've looked back across how many minis have been released, and we're like, okay. But to be able to say that with the vast majority will have something for them. Is pretty much out there, and we're really focusing on that. We think it's a really important thing for you to be able to, within like the first year or so of the game being revised to second edition, to be able to play your stuff, because we realize there's so much backlog and people have these amazing forces that they want to get on the tabletop, and that is completely understandable. But also, we couldn't just dump it all in on day one, because we would never have got it. We wouldn't be able to have this conversation with you now, because we'd still be working on it and it'd still be super secret. So, unsurprisingly, the classic 4 got put to the front. So, with that in mind, that's kind of our overview for the moment of Wasteland Warfare second edition. Boy, it's been a lively chat. I've seen some people going like, but what? What is this? What is that? So I expect, clap, thank you. I expect there will be a question or two. If you want to start banging them in chat, we'll try and go through them in order. Sometimes the answer may be, we're not saying right now. But for example, like, where are the slug rules? We're not saying right now. Like we said, we'll address them when we come up. So here's an interesting one. I don't know whether this is something we want to cover or address us yet. Will there still be named characters? Because obviously there are many named character minis, and we've been talking quite broadly around warbands and groups. So how do named characters fit into that?
So there absolutely still are named characters second edition. Obviously, they're a bread and butter of our resin ranges. We wouldn't want them to go away. There'll be new ways to use them. I'm going to say this now, and maybe Samantha will glare at me, but the way in which they will be introduced primarily is either as boss models, so particular antagonists that have like an arc of their own, or they will be introduced as companions who can join your warband and follow you around in the wasteland.
Nice.
There are going to be some exceptions to that, some special ones with some specific things going on, but broadly you'll face them as antagonists or have them as companions, or maybe both for some mods. So,
Yeah.
lots of ways to get them into the game.
Cool. William 10. That was from Kuba, by the way. William 10 is can we still build up settlements? That's a big part of the game, and unsurprisingly, yeah. But that kind of ties as well into Bulbo asking if there's any more details about how the campaign map might work. Is there anything we're prepared to share about that, or is it just a case of wait and see?
So what I'd say is about settlements is there are some basic rules in the core game for running your settlement, having your own settlement, but we are going to be expanding that massively later on. So hold your horses, wait and see what we come up with. In terms of how does the campaign map work? Oh, I'm getting there.
Like that.
We will be obviously
that
giving you
smoothly.
we will be giving you a lot of details over the next couple of months, but think of it as a kind of, if you've played a hex crawl game, that's kind of a similar vibe. You'll be exploring a wasteland that you generate yourself, and you'll be finding settlements and landmarks, and you'll be encountering factions out in the wasteland built out from the collection of models you have, and you'll be able to have different relationships with them, and some of them will be friendly and some of them will be antagonists, and there will be this evolving narrative as you play.
Sure. Tesseract79 question, show us more, please. That's not a question, even though you put question mark at the end of it. I like how you play fast and loose with the rules of grammar, but I don't think that kind of works. Question, recommended retail price? Well, again, that's in the future to say, really.
We do have those actually,
whoa.
because they're in
Good
the
Lord.
catalog, right, Jamie? So
Yeah, but
we
I
can.
didn't plan to say these.
Oh,
Give me a
you
second.
should find them then.
In the meantime, I'll just do this. I answer to one of the questions. Here's a plastic frame for super mutants. There you go.
Hey, there you go.
They've seen them already. It's fine.
That's
Let
true.
me find
We
the
saw a
sprites.
picture of them.
I wasn't planning it.
Will there be fun rules around climbing, height, falling, shooting down on ups as the SEP? No, there will be unfun rules about those things. Yeah, there will be. There will be fun rules.
Yes, obviously, one of the things I think lots of people are very worried about with this is that we're going to make this factions, But Fallout Factions is its own game, and if you have spoken to me on our Discord, you know that I have my own affection for what Wasteland Warfare is and what Wasteland Warfare's vision is. And I understand that people love it because it is more in depth, it has more depth to it, and it has a lot more granularity on the table. And I wouldn't want to sacrifice that. The rules around those have changed; those things have changed, but there are rules for those things. Don't worry about that.
Nice. Nice.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. Cookie Skater asks, "What is the plan? RE cards and weapons warband building?" I mean, obviously that's that's a short question for a lot of detail, but it is worth reiterating that cards are not a part of second edition. But yeah, obviously we're going to try and we're aiming to streamline all that, so it will be a better, smoother thing. But I don't know how much we want to say about that.
Well, what I can say is kind of the thinking behind it to some extent, which is cards were a really great, handy reference tool if you had just started or you were just playing with like the old core set. But as the game evolved, it became increasingly difficult for people to manage their collections of cards and keep track of everything. And lots of things were on cards that perhaps didn't need to be, and we kind of evolved over the edition to bring things like the environment tables and so on and so forth to make this like a little easier. The thinking going to second edition is that we're kind of trying to tackle this from a different direction and mean that you're not having to constantly reference lots and lots and lots of different things. There are still going to be reference sheets and reference cards, which are going to be your bread and butter for certain things. They're kind of a card replacement in some way, but they are much more. They're much easier. They're much simpler to read. We've changed how those things are presented. And in terms of like how you track your warband, you will have a warband roster with everything recorded on there, and it will condense everything into one place, so you don't need to reference lots of cards at the same time.
Yeah,
want to say,
there'll be that thing because they're useful tools to be like that, rather than oh no, we now have to make a card for everything. You know.
Yeah.
I want to say, for the health of the game, guys, I'm going to tell you this now. I'm not going to hold your hand while I say it. Cards were not a sustainable way for this game to keep going. They just were not. We had over 1,000 cards. We had multiples of the same item, but with different stats in them.
Yeah.
They're not going to be back.
Yeah, and we did confirm in the very first announcement that there would not be cards in the second edition, and that has not changed.
No, that's cool. That's cool. Back Pocket asks, should we expect synergistic, good word of the day there, releases with factions? And I think that's kind of like, it's something we kind of mentioned earlier when we were talking about, like, that we're expecting people to focus initially on those plastic core sets. So there is crossover there, but do we want to speak to, like, will future releases, we're talking about how waves have changed, but will future releases still have models that work in both games or just individual games, or, like that?
Yeah, so all of the models that we're going to be releasing in the future are going to be compatible with both games. That's not to say that one model will always appear in both games. It may appear in one and not the other. Maybe you have to wait for a while for that one to appear because it should be coming out in like a different wave. But yeah, because the scale remains the same and it remains the same for both games, you can all the models are compatible with both games.
Yeah, cool. Speaking of, Captain Kiro says, any ATM when we learn more about upcoming new models? I'm sure we will do a more miniatures focused reveal at some point over the next few months, where we sit down with some, if not all, of the people you see here, plus some a sculptor and a painter, and we gush over beautiful looking things. So we'll probably tell you then. Scroll through. Skipping ahead a little bit, talking about, are the models still? Are all the PVC models pre-built? Yes.
Yeah, that's the idea behind them.
That's the idea. Will we be demoing?
Steve, a few people asked about that.
Oh, what's that? Sorry.
About the reasoning for us going to 2x2. I saw there was a few questions relating to that we haven't covered.
Yeah, let's talk about that.
So one of the things we looked at when we were designing second edition is we looked at people's real world play experiences and the environments in which people managed to get games to tables. And we found that there was a consistent trend of people preferring smaller play spaces and struggling to fit games into their environment. We did a whole bunch of things, like we looked at the standard size of tables that are sold in different countries and how big a space people are likely to have. Like, and we realized quickly that the smaller like footprint that we could get the game down to and still be working in a fun way, the more accessible the game would be to more people, and
Yeah.
the easier it would be for people to maintain a game setup over the length of a campaign. We trialed a few different sizes, and in the end we decided that 2 foot by 2 foot was the right size. We're really happy with how the rules work on that size. And honestly, like it's small enough that you can, and a lot of people in the studio do now, keep a Wasteland Warfare setup like on your desk at all times. And we have had situations where people have like just played a quick game at lunchtime on their already set up board to keep their
Yeah.
campaign going. And that kind of consistency is a factor of that footprint size.
Amazing.
It also kind of
Sorry.
really plays into the kind of outlook we have with a lot of our like miniatures games, and it's something we stumbled upon. I think it was like last UK Games Expo or something, where we don't intend these to be like lifestyle war games. They're war games for your lifestyle. So like they are malleable around your schedule, right? So I love the fact that like you can have a little like setup on your desk or on a dining room table that you can just kind of go back to now and again. It doesn't take up like a whole big mass battle size map or anything like that. You don't need to be like, you know, taking out an entire day to try and move your like life around this game that you want to play. That it's really like
Yeah.
flexible in that sense. That's really the kind of idea behind it for me, I'd say.
Cool. Seeing a few people talking about, and sorry if you think we're not getting to a question. So there's a lot, so I'm just scrolling through. I just want to make sure we go through them in order, so we're not ignoring you.
Yeah,
Um,
I
and
would
we'll
say,
get to other. A few people talking about
yeah.
battle mode. Now, obviously, that presumably by that you mean like a 1v1 versus mode.
Yeah.
And obviously we've talked about some other things, but do you want to maybe address that?
Sure. Well, we know that lots of people play um, Wasteland Warfare in lots of different ways, and so one of the key things going into this new edition was making sure we included as many ways to play as possible to keep the game accessible. So while the focus is on solo play and campaign play and the co-op play, which there are a couple of different ways of playing co-op, as I think we mentioned earlier, there's also a couple of different ways of playing versus play. Um, We'll detail some of that coming up, but there are ways for you to jump in and be the antagonists in your friends' campaigns, and you can also play dedicated 1 versus 1 games, which we are calling battle mode in honor of the version in first edition that was popular. Battle mode in this edition is basically a way for you to either create custom warbands and pit them against each other, or to use your campaign warbands and put them in a kind of like an arena to see how they do against each
Yeah.
other. There are a number of scenarios created in the book for you to play, and the game flows a little differently for a whole bunch of reasons that we will comment to in the coming months, but it is still that kind of punchy 1v1 experience. It's not going to be our focus going forwards. I think I can say that pretty definitively. We want to include to make sure everyone has that opportunity,
Yeah.
but we are, if you want a PvP game, please go and play Fallout Factions. That's the one that we're going to spend our time offering that from there. I'm sure the community, if they care about battle mode, will pick it up and run with it just as they did in the first edition. So I'm looking forward.
Definitely, and I think that's the interesting thing is, like, you know, it's about like saying what the focus is the biggest part of it, and obviously there are, like you said, you know, it makes sense to have a kind of like a what we call battle mode, you know, so that you can have those moments where you think, I really want to try out this setup and this combo, but I don't want to have to grind my way through a campaign to do it.
Hmm.
Then I will play it, you know, and it's like that's how you're gonna do it. Are some warbands intended only as opposition? Says Regal Eagle. Eagle. The ones we've listed are all for play as
Steve.
protagonists, I
with the
believe.
single exception of Creatures of the Wasteland.
Yes, I think we called
So
those out and said that they would
we
be as
did,
antagonists. So yeah.
but just to be clear, Creatures of the Wasteland is the only faction, the only kind of like group in the game that cannot be played as like a solo warband with a hero in it for obvious reasons. It doesn't mean you can't include some of those creatures in your warbands. As I mentioned before, hirelings are going to be a thing. There will be more and more rules as we go on for that stuff. But for right now, they are there as antagonist faction. Everyone else can be playable with a hero, with a warband, Enclave, Institute, whoever you want. You can be the bad guys, you can be the good guys. If you want to play super mutants, you can have a super mutant hero leading a warband of super mutants. It is all playable like that.
Nice.
I see someone has said, I assume that assumes robots too. So robots at the moment are only available as hirelings in these first releases, but we'll be giving them full expanded rules later on. But yes, they're not going to be intended to be a whole warband on their own. They're always intended to add into other warbands.
Exactly. Everyone has a good robo friend. Going to skim through a few that I think we can answer quite quickly. We've talked about how settlement building work. You're sorry you're late, Verm. Don't do it again. Will we be? Is there going to be a delay? Will there be multi-phase fights again? That's more down to a specific thing that we're going to talk about. What's the event? What's the experience going to be like? Well, I mean, ain't that the truth? I mean, let's put it this way. We may be doing other things. We may show you like a video or something. Not that Samantha and me are going to film some stuff next week, but I'm just saying we plan for this stuff. We will show you when the time comes. Don't worry. Can we expect plastic core boxes with these wave releases for the faction stroke warbands that already don't have them? I mean, like we said before, and I think Samantha's very good at saying this. Surprisingly, we want to do a lot of these things, but we just got to prioritize the order in which they come. And there's only so much can fit through our pipeline and the Bethesda approval pipeline at the same time. So hopefully, you've seen that we will get there to your favorites. Anything anyone else has seen? I'm still scrolling through. You're a ravenous lot for questions.
I can touch on the app a little because I know there was a couple of questions
Yes,
asked
I was
about the
just
app.
about to say
Will
I've
be an
seen one of
update.
those.
Yeah, so there'll be an update to introduce second edition, and we will be making the first edition content available to people. That's why if people have spotted it, the card packs are no longer purchasable because we don't want people buying card packs for first edition now and then finding out in 3 months, in 2 quarters time they can't play with them anymore, kind of thing, if they spent their money. So we're changing that so you can't buy the card packs on the app anymore. But there will be an update to then introduce the second edition as well.
Cool.
One I saw in here is asking about card terrain in the boxes, and we did mention, but it might have slipped past people. But there is card terrain in both of those boxes. It's all new terrain, and it's designed to be very varied in order to support a lot of different environments. I also saw a question about, is the game going to be compatible at large sizes? And the answer is yes, you can play larger games, but that's not intended to be your bread and butter encounter on the table. You're going to save that for your big boss fights and your exciting finales. But yes, you absolutely can play on a larger board if you want to.
Nice. App, yes, you mentioned about that. I think we've covered a lot of these.
Yep.
Can I shed any light on how world map would work on a solo campaign? We've kind of talked about that. I think we're probably getting, unless I've missed anything, I'm going to just scroll right to the end now. Will Liberty Prime have new rules? Look, when I say things like I think we've gone through all the sensible questions, and I scroll to the end and I see that, you're proving that I was right. No, there are no bad questions. There are just ones that we can't get around to right now. But yeah, I think we're kind of there. If there's any last minute questions, people talking about vault dwellers, like I said, when we can do things and we want to do all the things. Is the Into the Wasteland expansion the same as the Into the Wasteland starter? They are the same thing, yes,
Yes.
as I understand.
The
In
expansion book
effect.
comes in the starter. Yes.
Yes, yes, it is. And like I said, that's why how the first wave is that one, because I believe that is the name of the first wave as well, isn't it?
Yep. Yeah, the first
Yeah.
wave is called
So,
Into the Wasteland. The
so
idea
you know.
being is that, you are following the story of a vault dweller emerging from a vault and then making their own mark on a procedurally generated wasteland, all available for you to explore.
Will Tabitha be able to lead Super Mutants in second edition? Wait and see. Possibly. Who knows? Will all previous release models have rules for follow Wasteland from 27? All is a tricky word, but the vast majority we're trying to aim for. Yes.
The absolute vast majority will, and almost certainly sooner than that. To be honest, with you. Like we do not want you to wait. We are putting them out as fast as the pipe will allow us to shove content through it.
Yeah,
Yes.
and I will reiterate, like I do, I think the end of every single stream, basically. I see in comments in chat about, can I have this model, this armor, this character, this faction? Of course you can, but I can only release things to retail at a certain rhythm. If I release everything at once, A, you're not going to buy it because you'll be bankrupt. B, stores are going to be really confused about what to prioritize. So these things are all going to come out, but in a rhythm that works for us, works for distribution, works for the game, ultimately. So yes, I absolutely have plans, and I see all of your comments about faction or armors or, stuff like that. We absolutely do have plans for a lot of that stuff.
We do a lot of the same things when people talk about what's coming up, and like someone will say, "And this is coming," and someone in the meeting will go, "Oh, at last!" So it's like there is that thing in the company as well. So no, sorry, Evie.
I was going to say, it's just someone has said any news on rough release date and cost. As we said earlier, the Into the Wasteland starter will go on pre-order in Q2 and will be available in person, like in your hands, in Q3. And the Warbands starter will go on pre-order in Q3 and be dropped off for you in Q4. Everything else will come as it comes. In terms of price, I think Jamie was checking.
I was looking, yeah. So the rough pricing at the moment is for Into the Wasteland, we have it as £50 or $70. And for Warbands, it is £120, $160.
There we
Of
go.
course.
There you go.
There we go.
1 million bottle caps. But yes, that's too much. 1 million is fine. But yes, I think what we'll do then. Can we just repeat that for Ryan, who's
Ryan,
not paying attention?
I'll send it to you after, Ryan. It's fine.
Yeah, we'll message you.
So yeah, I'll message you, Ryan, the pricing and everything to put in your video.
No worries. Cool. Well, in that case, what I will do then is I will close the Q&A. Oh, how will problems in the middle? It's too late. We can't answer that. We would have answered it, Screwcabell, but the Q&A is over. So fortunately, we don't have to get involved in geopolitics right now. Fantastic. So thank you everyone for coming. It's really awesome to see how people are interested and excited for second edition. We are too, and we'll keep spamming you with these streams. Basically, we're going to show you some minis at some point. We'll show you some gameplay at some point as well. But it will come, and boy, we will crow about it because we're very, very, very excited about this. Let's just go around briefly, and everyone can say just once again who they are, what they can do, shout out anything else they want to draw people's attention to, be it Modifius or otherwise. And no, we weren't going to tell you about the new minis in the starter set. I've fallen for that trick before. And then we'll call it a day. So let's same order we did before. Evie.
Shout out my favorite faction in my outro. My favorite faction
Mm.
in the new edition is the NCR for second edition. I think their rules are
Ooh.
super cool. And I would say join the Discord. I am on there persistently in perhaps an unhealthy way. You can come and talk to me there. So
Ooh.
yes, come and chat to me.
Yes, so discord.gg/Modiphius if you want to come and join the minions. But yes, it's not unhealthy. It's lovely seeing you on there. Samantha.
Yeah, I am head of brand here at Modiphius, and I brand manage all the Fallout stuff. Unlike Evie, I'm not on the Discord as much in a healthy way, but I am around the internet at RPG Webby, and I've been in chat as Follow Black Cats. That's my little side project, Black Cats Gaming, with a business partner. We do RPGs and stuff. And if you follow the channel there, Monday nights we are playing Fallout RPG, the one by this here very company, Modiphius. And yeah, we're traveling through the Idaho wasteland, and it's all a bit weird. And the weirdest thing, to be honest, is the group of player characters I have. They're just a bunch of
It's
oddballs.
always the way. You can't plan for them, but they have to turn up.
Yeah.
And favorite faction or favorite warband that you're looking forward to playing in second edition.
I don't know. Probably just survivors. I'm boring like that. But then we've got the cool new
Hey.
classic Vault Dweller heroes. So I'm like,
Yeah.
I think the way that they're going to be is going to be really cool. Where you can like build your character like 4 times. It's really cool.
I think that's gonna be cool. Be cool. Four minis to paint for the same as one or something. Jamie, finally, tell us your message.
I'm the project manager for Fallout, except for the RPG. I'm even more unhealthily on the Discord than Evie, to the point that Evie's told me off before. You can find me there or on the Facebook groups, normally talking about Fallout. I'm really looking to play Super Mutants. They're great fun.
Nice.
Just to smash, just take over the
Nice.
wasteland with them. Can't wait.
Yeah, I think it's cool.
Join the Discord. We're super active there.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm Steve. Thank you very much for hanging out. I'm looking forward to playing Super Mutants as well because after the last game of factions, it awoke something in me, and now I want to play Super Mutants all the time, every time. So yeah, I'm looking forward to getting them on the board in second edition. If you want to come and hang out on Friday, I will be here with the lovely Callum, and we'll be painting. It's not here. It's in my kitchen drying from when I primed it earlier. We're going to be painting the busts. We're going to paint a bust of an NCR courier, and Callum is going to teach me how to do non-metallic metallics, and I may crumble. He gave me a list of paints earlier. I was like, "What's this for?" Like the whole model. He's like, "No, just this bit, mate." So I'm gonna like have a meltdown. But please come and offer support. And there'll be other things. Yeah, I know. This is going to be like I'm going to achieve my final form. So that'd be great. Otherwise, please do drop us a follow here so you can catch up when we do other streams. Also, we're on YouTube. That's a great place for sneak peeks at other bits and bobs. And social wise, it's TikTok, it's Facebook, it's Blue Sky, and it is Instagram. I always forget the fourth one. But no, that'll be it. So thank you for hanging out. Have a great Wednesday, and we'll see you soon. And good luck in the wasteland, everyone. Have a great time. Bye.
Bye, everyone.
See you later.